Hey, welcome. I hope you're doing good. Thank you so much for joining me. So, today's reading is the person on your mind. What do they say about you? What do they tell others about you? Okay, and we do have three groups for you to choose from. We have group one, the fluorite crystal, group two, the pink agate, and group three, the blue calcite. No, actually, it's called the blue obsidian. My bad. These two look kind of similar, but this one has like more color in it, but you can't really see it on the camera, I don't think. But anyways, the person on your mind, what do they tell others about you? Group one, two, and three. If you do need to take a moment to choose your group, go ahead, but I will see you all in your readings. Hello, if you've chosen the first group, the fluorite, then this reading is for you. The person on your mind, what have they been mentioning about you? What have they been telling other people about you? All right, so we do have the moon in reverse and we have the chariot upright. All right, so the person on your mind, they say that they're starting to see you for who you are, or they feel like they're starting to see you for who you are, like see you more clearly, or maybe understand you a bit more, even if they still do have a little bit of confusion about who you may be, or they just feel confused about you sometimes. They still feel like they're starting to see you for who you are. But for the majority of you, this actually feels positive, like they have more of a positive opinion on you, that they're starting to gain clarity on who you are, how you work, how you operate. They say that they can't really trust you, or that they can't fully trust you, and they feel like you feel the same about them, or that level of trust like hasn't been developed between you both yet. But at the same time, they say you both get along for the most part, or you both work well together, or that you both are cordial. It depends on who you're asking about, I guess. But they say that you guys are on good terms, or on better terms. They do say you both will always have your ups and downs, or that you both have your little disagreements. They say that you both aren't, completely compatible with each other. But they say that those differences don't really get in the way of you guys, building a relationship or having a relationship with each other. And they kind of just say that you guys won't see eye to eye on everything, and that's all right. But I do have to say, it does feel like this person, they could, wish or hope that you did share more of their opinions and their perspectives. They do say you are a little bit mysterious and or secretive. They do mention wanting to know your secrets, like they do like wish they were able to kind of peek behind your veil a bit more, like you could let them in on certain things, about you, or stuff that's going on for you, but it feels like they want to know more. They do feel like there's certain things that you are still, I don't know if hiding is the right word, but kind of just like keeping to yourself. So yeah, they do want to know more about you, about what you're doing, about what you're about. But they do think you are less confusing than what they thought you were. They do mention to someone or a few people that they mistrust you, but they are glad that they have that clarity on who you are for themselves. They do tell people that you are quite consistent, that you rarely switch up. And this could be about them. It could be, referring to other areas of your life. They do say you're ambitious in a lot of areas of your life as well. They do say you're quite a passionate person, aggressive, assertive as well. They mention that they actually quite like this part of you, the part of you that is aggressive and that is passionate. They do tell people you are impulsive at times too, sometimes too impulsive. They do say you are emotional and sensitive. And for some of you, they do mention you struggling with your mental health at times. They do say that you do, in their opinion or what they know of you, that you do or may deal with a lot of negative thoughts. But at the same time, like they do say you are very composed and have a lot of control over yourself, even though you are sensitive, even though they do perceive you as struggling. Like they do feel like you do have this control and composure about yourself. And they actually do mention that you help them feel less anxious. And maybe in other parts of their life as well, with the 10 of Wands coming out. But they say that you seem less cautious than you were in the past. They do mention you being controlling. This could be referring to yourself, but also other people too. They do say like you're self-focused, but you have a high awareness in general. Like you're aware of other people, you're aware of your surroundings. Like you're smart, you're able to take things in. Like they mention you don't miss a beat, or you rarely miss a beat, you know? They do say that they want you to make more of an effort with them. And they do say you have a lot of self-discipline too. And finally, they do mention that they are quite determined to move forward with you as well. Lovers came out to clarify. The Sun card is below that as well. Like, they already see you guys as making a decent team or a good team, but they think together like you guys could make a better team. Like, better than you are currently. Do you know which I should do first? Okay. I'll do these first. So we have you're being shady. What are they mentioning about you? So they do mention that sometimes the things that you say could hurt a little bit. They do say that sometimes you can be malicious, even if it's not your intention to be. Like sometimes that's how it comes across. And I think that comes like maybe with them thinking that you are quite assertive. So sometimes it can be quite direct, you know. Even though they like your directness, maybe when it comes to them, it could sting a little bit. We also have believe what you see, face reality, or live in la la land. What is that? What's that about? So yeah, I think that comes back to the moon card and what we were talking about earlier. Like they do think they do mention that they are starting to see you clearly and see you for who you are, and that what they see of you is what they're starting to believe, or what they need to believe. So we have inhibited. What are they mentioning about you? What are they telling others? So they do tell others that at times you can be private, you can be maybe inhibited for some of you. This could be specifically when it comes to them, as opposed to in general, with the Three of Cups coming out. What do they say about you? So they do mention you being too busy for them, but this could be more so referring to the past. Like, even though they would love for you to make more time for them, they do feel like you are making an effort to make a little bit more time for them. You also have undemanding. What do they say about you? They say you aren't very demanding of them, but it feels like for a lot of you, they would like for you to be a bit more demanding. Maybe ask them for more things, or ask them for support, or just kind of like seek them out a bit more. So we have increased support. Your positive focus and willingness to receive have opened the doorways to abundance and help. So they actually mention that they do think you need more support. They do mention that you do have a lot of opportunities and that you could be receiving a lot of support. For some of you, this is definitely like divine support, you know, like being supported by the universe, or, you know, ancestors, whatever you believe in, really. But yeah. We also have transition, release attachments to what was and prepare for what is to come. What have they been mentioning about you? So they do mention that they do want your relationship to progress. And finally, we have make friends. So they actually mentioned that they want you to treat them more like a friend, or kind of rely on them, or talk to them more like they're a friend. For some of you, this could just be that they, you know, mention that they wish you were like a bit more friendly towards them. Maybe more open as well. But it feels like it's in a way where they kind of just want you to feel closer to them so that they can feel closer to you. But that is all I have for this group. I really do hope it could be helpful, make sense, resonate, and all that stuff. But I'm wishing you all the best, all right? Please take care. Bye. Hey, welcome. If you've chosen the second group, the pink Argate, even though you can't see much of the pink on it, then this reading is for you. All right, so the person on your mind, what have they been telling others about you? What have they been mentioning? We have the Magician and we have the Eight of Wands. Both upright. Quite fiery energy as well with the Magician and the Eight of Wands. So they definitely think you're quite fiery. Even if this is in like a low key way, or at times you're fiery when it comes to certain things, but it doesn't really feel like they mention this a lot to other people. They do say that you are really attractive and really confident and very creative as well. They do mention you having a great career. For some of you, if it isn't related to your career, they do feel like there's other things that you have going for you. It could be, about something that you do put a lot of time and energy into. Um, yeah. But if you do relate to having like a career, they do feel like it is a really good one or good for you. They do, that's funny. So the lovers, it feels like they mention you being a bit of a lover, that you're flirtatious and or charming. And even though they speak very highly of you and practically talk about you being awesome, they also say you're quite low key. It just feels like they feel like your awesomeness or your fire, your passion, your power in general is just like quite subtle. It's not loud, it's not overwhelming, it's not, suffocating. It's just very nice, in their perspective. They do say that you are great at manifesting. They mention that they think you don't have to work hard for what you have, but they say it in a way as if like they're not sure, because they're from their point of view, it looks easy for you, like what you have and what you manifest and what you work towards. But yeah, in their point of view, they do say it like it looks easy. But if they were to maybe do it, or other people were to do it, it would be more difficult or would be hard. Or other people would have to sacrifice more, sacrifice a lot to have what you have. But they do say that they love being around you, and that you're quite an exciting person as well, or just being around you is quite exciting. They say that you could have a lot of influence over people, but you don't. They may not say to people you don't want influence, but they do think to themselves that you don't really want influence over people. They kind of think that maybe it's just not your bag, like you're not really, too interested in having that power over people. But yeah, they do tell others or tell a specific person that you are very genuine and lovely. They say that you make them feel quite energetic, you make them feel more alive. They do mention you being very brave as well, especially brave enough to kind of like go after what you want. And they say it takes a lot of guts and courage to do some of the things that you've done. And they also mention that you have grown a lot in some areas of your life too. They tell people that you're smart and they have, sorry, great conversations with you. They also mention open and honest communication is really important for you as well. But yeah, they do say that you're at peace, or you at least seem at peace and you seem fulfilled in your life. They do mention you being quite resourceful though. Like you make the most of what you have, whether this is opportunities, whether this is like actual tangible material things. Could be about food as well. Like you just make the most of everything that you have, whether that's information to like they say it in a way where you're able to make something out of practically nothing. And they say honestly that you're quite impressive. They do mention you possibly encountering a lot of like a lot of challenges in your life, but you've managed to move onward and upward from those challenges in their perspective. And this person honestly just has a lot of respect for you. They tell people that you're quite affectionate, and this could be with them, it could be with other people or with another person in general, in specific. In Pacific, that literally makes no sense at all. I don't think. In particular. Anyways, so I lost my train of thought now. But yeah, so they do mention you having a lot of goals, that you like to travel. They say that you're very direct as well, which they like. And they say you're just really positive and a really positive influence. So we have you need a big hug. On the back it says squeeze. What do they say about you? So they do mention you being very warm as well. We have don't force it, allow things to come to you, is what it says on the back. So it's kind of like that message that came out earlier about them saying that they don't think you have to work hard for what you have, or at least it doesn't really seem hard for you. So they do say that things come, like you don't really have to force things, or from their perspective, you don't have to, force certain things or kind of be, I don't know what's the right word, maybe aggressive in order kind of to like achieve certain things. But yeah, so they do mention that certain things, it does appear like it kind of comes towards you as well, if that makes sense. So we have unfriendly. So for some of you, that was clarified by the Emperor and the Nine of Wands. Like for some of you, they do mention that people could get the impression, like especially if they don't know you very well, or if they're meeting you for the first time, that you're quite serious or that you can be unfriendly. So yeah, they do kind of mention that people could get that impression from you. We also have questioning. So for some of you, they do mention that you encourage them, or you encourage other people to think deeper. It's like maybe you question people, maybe you ask certain questions. Like some of you could be very like intellectual, like kind of having those deeper conversations or finding the deeper meaning about stuff. So they do kind of mention that you do help them think about things in like a little bit more depth, or that they're able to kind of have those kind of conversations with you. And we also have naughty. What do they say about you? So that was clarified by the Page of Wands. Like they do mention you being quite funny, being quite naughty as well. For some of you, this is in like a mischievous kind of way, but I guess depending on who you're asking about, it could definitely be in a sexy way, especially if you're asking about that kind of connection. So we have clearing negativity. What do they mention about you? So they do mention that you have been able to move on from certain challenges, move on from certain negative experiences as well. We also have job. Do what you love what you do. So for some of you, they do mention you having a good job. I feel like something like that came out earlier. We also have energy of love. So they do mention you giving off like a very positive energy, like a loving energy. Whether this is more so towards people who do know you more or people who you feel close to. Do you have more from this one? So finally, they do mention that you have quite a positive perspective on certain things as well. But that's all I have for those of you who've chosen this group. I do hope it could be helpful, make sense, and resonate, and all that good stuff. But I am wishing you all the best, all right? Please take care. Bye. Hey, welcome. I hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining me. So if you've chosen the third group, the blue obsidian, then this reading is for you. All right, so the person on your mind, what are they telling others about you? What are they telling a specific person about you? We have the Knight of Swords and the Eight of Pentacles, both in reverse. All right, so please only take what resonates, what makes sense, or just reject the reading if it doesn't resonate with you, okay? But the person on your mind, they tell people or tell someone in specific, or maybe a few people in particular, that you aren't talking to them, or you don't want to talk to them, or you just don't talk to them very often, don't talk to them very much, or it's just like very like surface level, not very, deep or whatever. They do mention that you kind of like ignore them, that you aren't really proactive when it comes to them as well. And this is in ways like in more than just communication. They feel like you aren't proactive. They do say that you've been selfish because you've been either ostracizing them or someone else. They tell people that they can't really trust you, or it's difficult to trust you, or to kind of build that trust with you. They do mention that they are quite indecisive about whether they should keep trying with you. But as it stands right now, it does feel like they more so talk about it being unlikely that they're going to move forward with you, or that they're able to even move forward with you, depending on the situation between you two. They do tell others that you can be aggressive. They do mention you being out of control, and that they're like, they don't really know what's going to happen next with you. or they don't really know what they're going to get with you, or like what version of you they're going to get. They say that you're too impulsive. They do mention that it seems like you don't know what you want, which makes it difficult for them to move forward with you. They say that you do miss a lot of opportunities because you don't know what you want, or you don't know yourself very well, in their perspective at least. They say that you don't have enough confidence in yourself. And they do mention that you could benefit from, working on that. They do say that you overlook them quite often, or they at least feel like you overlook them. Either quite often, but for some of you, this could be entirely, like they feel like you overlook them entirely. They do mention that in their perspective, you are too rebellious, that you take too many risks for their comfort, that you may live an unusual lifestyle, or it's just very different, They do mention that you've been harsh or rude towards them and when you communicate with them, but for some of you, they could mention that that's just how you communicate in general. But at the same time, like they do say, do you think this or say it? So they could actually think this. I don't know if they say it, but they do think that you may, intend to cause harm. Like sometimes when you are communicating, especially if you are like harsh. But in their opinion, like they do mention that they think you are headed down a bad path. For some of you, it's just that they kind of mention that you're headed down the wrong path, or what they kind of perceive as being the wrong path. They may mention that you do need to get more organized, or you can benefit from being a bit more organized. So they also mention that they feel like you need to stop following people or being easily influenced, or just being influenced by other people and what their opinions are or what they're doing. They do kind of mention that you need to form your own opinions and, kind of establish your own way of life, something that will bring you stability in the long term and kind of like provide you with some direction. But yeah, they do kind of say that they are concerned about you. They say that that you aren't fulfilled, and they're afraid that you'll go off the deep end almost. Like they think if you don't find that thing that kind of gives you direction, or that thing to focus on, or that thing to bring you stability, again in their perspective, they possibly feel like it will kind of steer you in the wrong direction, or further in the wrong direction in their opinion. They do mention that you aren't the best with money. They say that they can't trust you to make the best decisions as well, for yourself, for them, for other people. And they say that you really need to focus on what will bring you long-term stability. They think or they mention that you rely too much on other people, and they think that, that it needs to stop. And you need to rely more on yourself. So we have you're the shit. What do they say about you? So they do mention thinking that you need to have like higher standards for yourself. Maybe you want more for yourself. We also have stop whining. What do they say about you? So for some of you, they do mention you complaining a lot, in their opinion. So we have doubtful. What do they say about you? So yeah, they do mention that they do have a lot of doubts about you, clarified by the Seven of Swords. You have mean. What do they say about you? So I think a similar message came up earlier, but they do mention that you can be mean towards them. But they may not think you're just like a mean person in general though. So they do mention you are discreet, maybe secretive, clarified by the Two of Swords and the Moon. So we have easy do it. So they do mention that they do think you need to slow down, take it easy, take less risks, or be less impulsive. Like make smart decisions and then kind of go after it, or be impulsive or take a risk, but only after you kind of make, you know, that analytical, it's not analytical, but yeah, analyze the decisions you want to make before doing it. So we also have tap into your higher wisdom. So yeah, they either think you need to maybe ask people who are maybe, I don't know if it's more established than you, or maybe people who have experience or, you know, knowledge in certain areas, or people who are just like have more, yeah, maybe life experience. Like they could feel like you need to kind of seek out that wisdom, maybe learn more, so that you're able to kind of tap into yourself and your higher wisdom, so that you can kind of like get to know yourself more, or establish who you are, you know, be decisive about the person you're going to be. And finally, we have limitation is power. Lean into your limitations. So they actually mention that in their perspective, they feel like you need to stop running away from things that are hard. And like sometimes when things are hard and you kind of just, you know, go get over, like, say, for example, like climbing a hill or mountain or something, like once you get to the top and then, you know, kind of going back downhill will be easier. So kind of just like reaching that hard part and then allowing it to become easier. Like they could have that perspective on you. But that is all I have for this group. I do hope it can be helpful. I am wishing you the best. All right, please take care. Bye.